let's get out of the West for a little bit and talk about the Asian influence and contribution to the alphabet and writing imagery. Oh my goodness, paper, relief printing. There's so much. In general, I mean, the big thing that the Asian contributed to the society at large is things like gunpowder, the compass, and of course, paper. Oh my goodness, yes. So, as we kind of get started with this, what I want you to think about is, once again, everything starts from a more pictogram kind of concept, and then it's going to move very quickly, especially in China, the idea of calligraphy. And what you need to know is that ultimately, finally, in Chinese calligraphy, it is a writing system that represents logograms, or graphic characters that represent entire words. So a logogram means that it's an entire word within this particular imagery. So this would be an entire word. And because it is painting and words, what you have is you will have a great deal of people who consider the highest form of knowledge is to be both is calligraphy, because painting and the word is completely and totally encapsulated using this brush and creating these logograms and creating this beautiful calligraphic system. All right, to start off, what I do want you to think of is a progression in time. The Chiakuan style of pictographic writing begins literally with what we call the oracle bones. And what they would do is they would write all these different calligraphy things on them, and then they would put them under a heat source, a fire or something, and according to how they break and crack and snap, you could actually tell the future. And then that's going to move to Chenwen, which is the idea of doing writing on cast bronze objects, things like treaties or penal codes or legal contracts. And so here you can just see the up closeness of how it was a little bit more of like a pictogram before it becomes a pure abstract kind of like calligraphy meaning. One of the things that I do want you to be really aware of is the idea of relief printing. And in relief printing, what you are doing is you are removing negative spaces, or you are creating negative spaces, however you want to create this form. But the idea of then running ink over something and then pressing it and then having this print come away from it. And it is, I'm pretty sure that literally with this relief printing that it's really popular, and it becomes a form of, I guess you would say, memorial. A lot of different grave markers and memorials are created in which people would then take sheets of paper or wax paper and actually do rubbings of them and come away with a rubbing. But here, I think this really works well because this is like a three-legged vessel, and it shows you how the character of this Li, this symbol, goes from the actual representational to a very pure abstract sign and symbol for it with calligraphy. But more than anything, you guys need to know paper. The invention of paper was actually accredited to a Chinese government official in 105 CE, but it could have been invented before that. And so, but this idea of a thick, pliable, easy-to-use substance, which is going to be really important for the use of calligraphy because it allows them to now have a platform. So moving from bone to bronze to now to paper, you can kind of see the level of variety you're allowed. And also there was a period in which they actually wrote and things on bamboo and other materials, but paper is such a wonderful creation. Allows you to do all this wonderful variegation. Look at the by taking ink and having little water, you get the darkness, and adding water, you get all these gray variations. And oh, I love gradations in calligraphy. So one of the things I want to talk to you about the idea of seals. And these are particularly important because they're actually like documents. It's a way of knowing who has owned something in the past. A lot of times they're referred to as chop, which is a seal made by, carving these characters into these objects. And so here you can see the chops after they've been pressed. They use like a cinnabar to make it a red color. And because of the mixture of painting and writing, it all comes from the brush and the ink. Usually in artistic matters, you will always see images and words together. But the seals are wonderful. The chops are great because you can know who has owned it. So provenance, oh my gosh, it's amazing. So it passed down from generation to whoever. Everyone puts their seal on it. So you know where it came from. And here you can see the chops being used. And here you can actually see the small little carving. It's a stamp, and it's a way of literally authenticating it and saying you own it or you made it or something to that point. And here you can see them all over. So the idea of doing things that with relief printing, woodblock printing, here you can see where it's been carved in. You can put a piece of paper over top of it, do a rubbing. Relief printmaking is going to be the very first major movement in producing large numbers of things. And so here there's different relief tombs. This one was actually a tomb marker that could be inked and then a piece of paper, of course, pressed, and you could walk away with the image from this particular tomb, this rubbing that's created. Absolutely beautiful, interesting idea. I wonder why we don't do that today. I mean, imagine you could go into the graveyard and you could, apply like a water-soluble ink, wash it off, and you could come off with the actual grave. But, of course, we don't do it because you get the exact opposite, I suppose. All right, interesting concept is in China, they come into contact with printing, with the word, faster than anybody because they actually made money with writing on it. So everyone comes into contact because they're the very first ones to use the printed image to make money. So everybody gets familiar with calligraphy and writing very soon. And also, these are dharanis, and so they're Buddhist charms that are printed and placed in pagodas, which of course is the Buddhist temple area house. And they're supposed to lengthen one's life and eventually lead to paradise. And so these would be mass-produced and distributed, so the written word is getting out to the people. I do love, this is the Diamond Sutra. It's the oldest surviving printed manuscript. 7 sheets of paper pasted together to create sort of like an accordion booklet, which they were the first to create. What I think is important about studying art and history and design is if you look at Buddha's chest, you will see what most people in the 20th and 21st century recognize as a swastika, which was actually taken by the Germans and used as a symbol of their maniacal, horrible stuff, but which originally is a Buddhist symbol for like nirvana, for finding your spirituality. It was a very positive, wonderful enlightenment. I think it's probably the best word. It was a symbol for enlightenment and understanding and education, and so it will be taken and then turned into something else. And then what you also see is you start seeing that in China they start to delineate and separate and make places for images and places for calligraphy. But eventually we're going to get to Kaishu, which is like the final step. It's what we look at Chinese calligraphy today. And notice that each one of those symbols are standing for entire words. And so here you can see sort of a nice mixture reading from top to bottom. Woodblock prints. These are, I absolutely am so excited, Chinese playing cards. And so these, of course, relief printing, as I said before, you take the piece of wood, you carve out what you do not want printed, put a layer of ink, and then print it. And very interesting, and I would know, is movable type was actually created, invented here in China, was used. They developed a method of it in the 11th century. I don't think they actually created it, but it existed. And the only problem, of course, is that there were so many characters in Chinese calligraphy that doing movable type is very difficult, because when we think of our alphabet, how many letters and how many consonants and vowels, we're much structured, 26, 30, whatever your alphabet might be. But with this one, when you have so many hundreds and hundreds of characters, it's movable type is not that useful. And I do enjoy this. This just shows you like the revolving type case in which the typeset, the movable type would be put into an image, into this thing, and then you could roll it and make a print of whatever it is that you're going to make a print of. All right, short and sweet. Keep on to the next one.